Welcome everybody to this month's virtual event brought to you by the FYI by Find Your Influence. My name is Joslyn Goodroad. I'm the founding member, EVP, and head of partnerships here at Find Your Influence. And I'm pleased to initiate today's discussion with some of our favorite partners who will help advertisers understand why Pinterest should be on their radar. Topics today will include, but are not limited to, why leverage Pinterest for your brand, what makes Pinterest unique to other platforms, what benefits brands see on the platform, how can brands successfully utilize creators on Pinterest, and who better to lead this discussion than Pinterest themselves? We are honored to welcome Sehar Mahmood, who is the Senior Program Manager at Pinterest. Sehar has extensive background in developing, managing, and monetizing advertising solutions. We also have Tracey Johnson. She is a global strategic program management lead at Pinterest. Tracey has over 12 years in the marketing space with brands like Viacom, Walt Disney and Tastemade. And finally, we have our event moderator, Raro Lae. Not only is Raro a senior account manager here at Find Your Influence, but Raro is a creator, media personality, podcaster, and event host as well. Now that we've met the panelists, I'll pass the virtual microphone off to you, Raro.
Thank you so much, Joslyn, Sehar, and Tracey. I'm excited to dive into this Pinterest everything conversation. However, before we begin, we have a few housekeeping items. All attendee cameras are off and microphones are muted, so we cannot hear or see you, so you're good to go there. Our Q&A chat is also open, so please feel free to submit questions you have, and we will be sure to address them at the end of our webinar. And so we're just going to go ahead and dive into this panel. Essentially, Sehar, I want to start off with you. Why should brands prioritize building their brand presence on Pinterest?
Sure. So hi, everyone. Nice to be with you all today, and thanks, Raro. So essentially, looking into why brands should prioritize their presence on Pinterest, it starts off with the fact that it is different at Pinterest. So in an environment where we do face things like social media toxicity, positive context matters. I think everyone knows the terms such as like doom scrolling has become more and more prominent in all of our vocabulary. And many adults feel that the internet can be a bit of a dark place at times. So this actually means that positive context matters now more than ever. And in a survey, 2 in 3 adults actually reported that they believe it's the brand's responsibility to actually turn up in positive places. And then we also know turning up in these positive places drive results through the funnel. So everything from purchase intent to trust and to feeling positive as well. So really it is down to the brand to turn up in those spots. So I guess taking a circle on it then, as people are craving more positive places online, people can turn up on Pinterest to stop paying that negativity tax. So 8 in 10 pinners come to Pinterest and feel more positive in comparison to 3 in 10 pinners on other platforms. So that's huge. And many of you may have seen this yourselves, but we frequently see tweets and comments, even off platform, kind of praising Pinterest, saying it's the antidote to toxic environments. And some of my favorites have to be that it's the manifestation app or the unproblematic queen of all the social media platforms. So that's really great that we've like curated this platform. However, obviously it's kind of been done through lots of hard work, and it's been through proactive policy making. We have a zero tolerance to negative or harmful content on the platform, and we really do go that extra mile to ensure that it has no spot. We've introduced tons of policies, and a few of them will be the health and misinformation policy that we rolled out. We have inclusive beauty searches. For example, if someone were to search information around topics such as elections, they're driven to like official government websites. Wow. And then a really cool one that recently came out in 2021 for creators is our creator code. So this is a pledge that all creators must sign before they can kind of post any content on the platform. And this is to ensure that our content remains safe and positive. So I guess with all of this, the fact that Pinterest has curated this positive environment, the opportunity really is for brands to also benefit from the halo effect. 9 in 10 pinners feel that they trust the content that they see on our platform. So brands turning up on our platform and in this space means they can also benefit from that environment.
Right, absolutely. And I feel like you just dropped so many gems in that. And honestly, I'm very familiar with Pinterest, but wasn't as familiar with just the amount of steps you guys take to ensure that it is a positive environment and the creatives, one, are set up positively for success, but also the brands, this is an excellent place for them actually to be present and get a great ROI in a positive environment. So that's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, one thing that I'm sure Tracey can talk to as well
Yeah.
is we frequently hear back from creators kind of highlighting how great it feels to create content on Pinterest themselves. They don't have to feel or worry about trolls or negative comments. So like creators want to come to us to produce great content on the platform as well. So it makes it special in that regard too.
Yeah, definitely. That leads nicely into some of the stuff I'll talk about later, but I do think that specifically in the content producer creator world on Pinterest, we often see that creators are saying they're taking breaks from other platforms, and then Pinterest is the only one that they keep live, which is really nice to hear. And I think just a testament to the kind of content that's on Pinterest that audience members want to actually see, and the feedback that the creators get from their audience is like more of this. And it's not so much like a comparative place, but more an uplifting, like learning place to share and educate as well, which is nice.
I love that. And Tracey, I think you touched on this a little bit, but I wanted to just kind of dive in a little bit deeper with the next question. What unique strengths do creators and their content have on Pinterest that differ from other social media platforms?
Yeah, definitely. So first, I want to talk a little bit about like our creators, our Pinterest managed creators. We don't own anyone or have exclusivity to anyone, but we do have an internal program and an internal team where we actually manage creators on the platform. So you can kind of think of that as like our in-house talent team where certain creators are selected for that high touch management, and they're selected based on a set of criteria that has to do with how their content performs, but then also the potential that the creator might have. So we have that program. Then we also have our Creator Inclusion Fund program, which is an application program where creators can apply if they're part of a marginalized group, and then they can be part of like a smaller cohort and get one-to-one management and education. And then from there, we help kind of Sherpa them along on their path to success for content creation. So what's really nice about that program is it's very community driven. All of our creators kind of become friends and learn from each other. But then from there, we hope to get them connected to brand campaigns. So what is nice about our managed set is they are super educated and they are really ready to work with brands. And not to mention, they're also seeing great success on the platform in terms of the numbers really speak for themselves. So we see that the repin rates or saves you might see on Pinterest are higher from our managed creators than any other content producers on the platform. So in the US, for example, we see that managed creators that have a 45% higher save rate or a repin rate than other content producers. So it just speaks to how we're really, focused on seeing the creators that we work with be successful. And then I know you also asked a little bit about what makes it different on Pinterest in terms of content and things. I do think that we have creators publishing content that might be similar to other platforms, of course, but tailoring it just ever so slightly to suit Pinterest a little bit more. So I think a lot of our content that performs really well is some of the more how-to based content. I personally like to think about it like learn how to do something, do something that might give you a skill or something that might help you along your journey to inspiration. So when we're thinking about like different projects, what kinds of content might you be saving for later and coming back to, which is why we tend to look at save rate a little bit more, because it's a good indicator of intent and recall for later. So I think all of that comes together through anchored back in that positivity as well, where it's not necessarily about showing like what you're doing right now or in the next, the last 24 hours. It's more about like where you want to go and what you want to be doing and how you might want to help your audience get to where they want to go and want to do.
That's a great way to look at it, because I think Pinterest, of course, it's going by the pins and essentially the saves, but it is really based on intent, and people are going to circulate and come back around to really expand on the content, probably use it to apply it to something, and they're using it kind of like DIY, learning how to do something in education based. And we know that education based content performs extremely well because everyone wants to continue to be educated on whatever niche it may be that they're kind of really focused on. So that's great.
Yeah. And I think what we see too from creators and when they're working with brands is they really like to show like how a product is used or utilized or might help them in a situation. So I think like great examples of content for brands and creators to work on together would be things like tutorial based content, DIY how-to content, even like product testing or trial or unboxing hauls. All of that kind of stuff works really nicely because it's super natural. It's what the creators are already doing on the platform.
Awesome. And so, Sehar, I think we're kind of just honestly flowing with this at this moment right now, but kind of just to get you to expand a little bit more about Pinterest and the different unique capabilities. What makes Pinterest unique when comparing it to other social media platforms?
Yeah, sure. So I think Tracey's already like set us up in a perspective of how it's unique, especially with creators. But I guess like building upon what we just discussed, like it is obviously inspiring and positive. People come to the platform for ideas. And because of this positivity and inspiration, we have actually been moving up in the ranks amongst Gen Z audiences and millennial audiences because people are kind of moving away from just aimlessly scrolling or like all-knowing algorithms. And that's actually also why Gen Z is one of our fastest growing audiences, which sometimes is a misconception, but like that's a great kind of audience that we're tapping into now. And I guess like on this front of what makes Pinterest unique when we're thinking of this positive space is a really cool study that we actually did with the University of Berkeley, and it was looking across university students. And what was found was actually 10 minutes of Pinterest a day combated burnout, buffered against feeling of social disconnection, and prolonged sleep. So really there's like the science to back up that this positive environment that we've curated is having a positive impact on Gen Zs. So that's a really unique factor that I would personally say, because amongst other social media platforms, it's good that we're having a positive impact there.
Yeah.
But I would say there's obviously a few others as well. The other one that I think connects really nicely in with brands is the fact that it's very personal on Pinterest in terms of it's all about sharing ideas, less about sharing opinions. And sometimes we describe it as personal media, not social media. So Pinterest is essentially a visual, like kind of all about visual personalized discovery. Okay. So everyone is coming to find new ideas, new things, versus just simply searching for information. What this means is brands can actually turn up with their products in lots of different scenarios and settings. It doesn't mean that your content will only turn up with kind of a paid campaign. It means your content will turn up every single time it's relevant, and it will turn up in kind of the process of helping our pinners make their vision come to life. So that I think is quite a cool one. And then in line with kind of making your vision come to life and kind of looking into the future is we know our consumers are very forward looking. They're planners. So it kind of is people will come to Pinterest, they'll plan for a moment or something that is going on in their lives, and then they actually might share what happened on other platforms, but it's all being planned for on our platform, which means it's very predictive on our platform. Like we have a very rich set of data and trends, and lots of brands tap into these like unique kind of forward-looking trends when they're doing campaigns on the platform. And then I think the one that nicely ties it all, and Tracey already touched upon this, is kind of the intention. So people come with this planning mindset, they come with this intention, which means they're also mindful browsers. It probably won't surprise you that scroll speeds on Pinterest are 3 times slower than other platforms. So people are very intentional when they're scrolling on a platform. And alongside this, 89% of weekly pinners use the platform for their path to purchase. So they're coming to the platform to find inspiration on their path to purchase. So that's really great as well, because brands can turn up on that path and really be the fuel to help them make that decision.
Right. And were you going to jump in, Tracey?
I was just going to say, I'm not Gen Z and I was not a part of any of these studies, but all of those things apply to me. Like the scroll before bed, better sleep, but then also just like path to purchase. I think like if you talk to a lot of Pinterest users, you'll find that many of them leverage the platform in that way. And it's really nice to hear it come to life through all those great stats.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love how you said mindful scrolling, because of course we hear so much about doom scrolling. So just having that like exact opposite, where it's mindful scrolling and something that's uplifting, positive, educational, I could see how that would impact people just so positively versus like, I think we were talking about it with a few friends the other day. And we were just mentioning how like you're scrolling for hours and it's like on some other platforms and you go from happy to sad to like, where am I in life? And so to have a stark alternative, that's just so incredible.
Yeah, I would just want to add on to that. You're 100% right. And one thing that we're proud of, and I think many brands want this as well, is we don't want people to be hooked onto their phone and spending hours on end on the app aimlessly. The best thing that can happen is a pinner or a consumer comes into the app, gets inspired, hopefully they get a boost and get good sleep at night, but equally they find that inspiration and then they go out and then make it a reality in the real world. That is kind of their path to purchase, like they're making their inspiration into a reality. So I think it's less for us about, making sure people are hooked on the screens and onto the app, and it's really about, people come with intention, they're mindful, they get use out of the app, and then they're able to like apply that outside.
Yeah, I love that. And Tracey, so did you want to build any further on how brands can work with creators to enhance brands' visibility and reach?
Yeah, sure. So I think one thing that I like to mention when we think about this, especially as it comes to working with a different kind of content producer or creator, is that on many other platforms, following is so important. And for us, following is important. Like you obviously, there are followers on Pinterest, but similar to what Sehar was saying about just thinking about, the mindful and you coming to the platform with a intent and you have a specific search in mind. Content from creators can be viewed by way more people than just the people that follow them. So not only are you going to want to look at that, but it's really nice to know that it's just more topic or search driven. So since we operate a little bit more like a search engine, you'll be able to increase your brand's visibility around different things like trending keywords or topics or moments that maybe a creator can build for you versus just really leveraging the creator for their following. You kind of get best of both worlds there because all the content the creator publishes will make it to their followers, but then it will also make it to really interested parties that maybe aren't following them yet, but might be looking for that particular kind of content. So I do feel like that's a really nice sort of Pinterest enhancement for your brand's visibility that you might not be getting other places. And content is so evergreen on Pinterest, which I think we'll talk about a lot today, but given that it's not, it doesn't have like a 24-hour lifespan or it doesn't simply like disappear after it's not relevant from the time span anymore. You could have content that, you publish maybe just for fun. I could publish like some nail art or something, and it could have a normal view rate, normal engagement rates, but then maybe in a couple of months, a trend happens and nail art is absolutely taking off. And then maybe that pin rides the wave. So I think it has a lot to do with what people are interested in, what the audience is searching for, and less about your followers of a particular creator. So I think when you're choosing creators to work with, keeping that in mind, that like the metrics are important, the followers are important, but they're not everything. Think about the quality of the content, think about how your brand might show up, think about the just really organic ways that your brand can have visibility within the content, and then also leveraging some of, you know, the popular search terms or trends that might be happening in real time.
Wow. I hope everyone is taking so many notes. I feel like you're giving us the ultimate blueprint for success on Pinterest. So I hope everyone is taking a lot of notes. Sehar, I wanted to ask you, what are the best practice brands should follow when building their brand presence on Pinterest?
Yeah, so there'll be a number of best practices that brands can really dive into depending on what their objectives are, what point of the funnel, and kind of like what their strategy is. But Tracey's already touched upon this. One really big thing at Pinterest is our moments. So people start searching for ideas around moments earlier on Pinterest than any other platform because they're in this planning mindset. And when I say moments, I mean seasonal moments like summer or life moments like wedding. So whether someone's, you know, planning a meal, planning a workout, planning their wedding inspiration, that is really being planned on the platform and then kind of executed in their life and then maybe posted about elsewhere. But moments is a really good best practice to align to as a brand because we actually see a 4 times higher conversion rate when activating against a moment. Because if you think about it, when pinners are coming to search for those ideas and find that inspiration, they're normally coming for a given moment. So it's almost like pinners are giving brands a golden ticket to say, hey, I'm interested in finding wedding inspiration or something for my next holiday. So as much as you can align to moments, it makes it really special. The other one I would say, and Raro, I think you already touched upon this a little earlier on, is like educational content. Yeah. So 97% of top searches on Pinterest, which let's be honest, is the majority of them at 97%, they're completely unbranded. That means that pinners are coming without an idea of their end goal. They're really coming to be inspired. So when brands think about their campaigns, they should really think about how can they, you know, like give the answer to those searches? How can their content be educational? And creators are a very great kind of like option or a partner to bring both moments and trends to life. As Tracey mentioned, like some of our best performing content is educational. It's kind of how-to tutorials. So when it comes to like showing education or even showing a brand's product coming to life, you know, how-to tutorials coming through a creator's voice, being really authentic, is a really great way that brands can partner with creators to bring that educational content to the end consumer.
Awesome. And so I have a follow-up question. Well, first, switching gears to Tracey really quickly, but what are the different forms of pins and when should each be utilized?
Yeah, so recently we brought the best of standard pins and idea pins, which you've probably seen on the platform, together into a single powerhouse pin format. So to kind of keep it as simple as possible, we like to say all pins are pins. So when creating pins, you can now choose between image and video assets that then whatever suits your content needs can kind of publish into that single format. We also, of course, have plenty of different ad units that you can leverage depending on what your campaign goals are. So things like collection ads, spotlight ads, idea ads with paid partnership, which I know we're going to talk a little bit more about today. But I'm hoping many of you on the line have done an ad campaign with us. So I'm not going to go through every single ad opportunity because there are plenty, many. But I will focus a little bit on idea ads with paid partnerships since we are talking about creators. And I do think that's one of the better formats in terms of how brands and creators can partner together. So for anyone who doesn't know, an idea ad with paid partnership really starts and works with a creator publishing a pin with paid partnership. The brand can then actually promote the pin as an idea ad with paid partnership. So these ads will include a label that will denote like who the creator is. It will say like Tracey Johnson, promoted by, brand name. And then you'll have that attribution on the creator side, but then you'll also have the brand side as well. And if the brand wants to actually promote that content, they can do so directly in their ads manager. So as long as you kind of adhere to the FTC guidelines, you use royalty-free music, all of that good stuff, you'll be able to actually put paid promotion on that content. And it's very similar to what you might see on other platforms or may have heard about as like the handshake. So like a handshake between the creator and the brand. And what I think is really nice about the idea ads with paid partnership is that it allows for that attribution directly on the unit, but then it also shows that your brand is a part of this creator, and this creator is part of the brand. So it's really, really focused on that partnership moment. So I always like to recommend that when brands are working with creators, and it's fully self-serve. So you don't need any special access to use it as long as you have an ads manager business account on the brand side, and then the creator side, as long as you have a creator account, you'll have access to the tool. It's fully available to anyone. So we're going to share some detailed follow-up information and exactly like the nitty-gritty of how to execute that. But that idea ads with paid partnership is my number one, and I think the number one format of working with creators on Pinterest.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Tracey. And Sehar, so coming back with somewhat the follow-up question, because I think you started talking to the longevity of posts on Pinterest. How can the longevity of pins on Pinterest contribute to the long-term visibility and impact for brands?
Yeah, of course. So we've already touched upon this, and I think Tracey said it right earlier on. We're going to talk about longevity of our content a lot because obviously it's something that's really special on the platform and we're proud of, but content on Pinterest is very much evergreen. So to put this into perspective, the average half-life of content on Pinterest is 3.7 months. To give you like an idea of other platforms, on Instagram, the average half-life of content is only 20 hours.
Wow.
So you can really understand how content really just is more relevant and lives on for much longer. And to really understand why and how this happens is very much how Tracey mentioned content regaining popularity, but it's also in our algorithm. So while some algorithms will serve you content based off who you follow and who you've chosen to follow, the way that our algorithm works is that content is served every time it's relevant. This means someone using the platform doesn't need to follow a brand or a creator to see their content. If the content's relevant, it will be served to them. And I think I mentioned earlier on, but the fact that 97% of searches are unbranded, that's why our algorithm needs to work in this way, because new and fresh and inspirational content needs to be served to these pinners who are looking for that inspiration. And again, mentioned by Tracey as well, but we see content regaining popularity because, as we all know, there'll be seasonal trends that happened. There'll be cyclical trends, you know, in fashion. There's like the Y2K fashion that's come around again. So certainly we've even heard from creators. They'll be like, hey, like I posted a recipe 2 years ago, like a fall time recipe, and now it's regained popularity. And that's because things will come back around. And this happens with brand content as well. And I guess the nice tie-in for brands and creators is when brands partner with creators, the content I would like to describe as almost like a blend of brand and organic content coming together. It's brand content, but it's like from an authentic creator's voice with their spin and style on it. So that type of content is even more likely to kind of continue being relevant and be served again, especially if it's educational as well.
And so to follow up on that, are there any common misconceptions from brands about Pinterest that you can speak to and set the record straight? I believe Tracey had touched a little bit about on follower count, but even just expanding on perhaps follower count, male, female audience, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, of course. So I'll start with follower count, which Tracey's already covered off like really nicely, but it's true in the sense that we believe the magic lies not just in the numbers of looking at someone's followers, it's looking at their content, looking at actually, you know, across our top managed creators, things such as how do they align to brand safety? How does their content align to our best practices so that we feel really confident that their content will perform on the platform? So we do an assessment in that sense, but the other really powerful metric to look at, which is publicly available, is monthly views. So monthly views show us how people are coming onto a creator's profile and interacting with their profile versus simply just following them.
Right.
But I guess other ones, you kind of alluded to this already, but one might be kind of our audience. So being primarily females or parents. And whilst this is a strong audience for us, I mentioned this earlier on, Gen Z and men are actually our fastest growing audience on the platform.
Wow.
So we're seeing a 50% growth in Gen Z, a 25% growth in kind of men year over year. So this is definitely like a really, growing audience that is shifting over to our platform.
Yeah.
And then the final thing to maybe tie into like our growing audiences, the incremental audience that we have, which I think at times people don't realize. So Pinterest has a very large incremental audience versus other platforms. So again, a reason for brands to really prioritize us as well, because these are people that you're not reaching on other platforms. And notably, there's 56% of over 18s who are on Pinterest and not TikTok. 45% on Pinterest, not Instagram, and 42% on Pinterest and not Twitter. So there's a huge audience who are, in that planning mindset. They have the higher purchase power. They're looking for inspiration. And that's maybe something that's not commonly as known.
Wow. And so I wanted to ask you, Tracey, you kind of touched on this a little bit in terms of how the brands are working with creators on Pinterest, but what are the most popular ways brands are working with creators on Pinterest, including content type?
Yeah, so it really, really runs the gamut in terms of content type. It honestly totally depends on what you want to do and what your product is. So we see a lot of tutorial content for things like makeup or recipe, but then we also see a lot of awareness-based content for things like travel partners or financial partners. So it really depends on the story you want to tell. But I think that's what's really great about working with a creator is you can kind of back into what you'd like your content to look like based on who you choose to work with. So maybe you are a beauty brand, but you want to focus on more tutorial based, or maybe you want to do more of an awareness based campaign. So you want to actually pull away from that tutorial type content. Really, it's kind of up to you, and then leaning on the creator's expertise in that content category to make that content really shine. But I do think the most popular sort of like partnership type is working with idea ads with paid partnership. I know I sound like a broken record on that one, but it really is the best unit to kind of showcase both the creator and the brand. And it allows you to have that halo effect of the creator's content types and audience and voice, but then also that added credibility of working with the brand to really showcase like this is the product, the creator believes in it, and makes that the content that much more powerful. So I would say, like, to kind of wrap it all up, anything that shows how to do something or teaches someone a skill or allows someone to maybe like save time or save money, those kinds of things are just sort of anchor points into how you might want to back into your content. But really many content types work. I would say, like, thinking about shorter form video is always going to be a solution. I mean, across the board in branded content, of course, but just like really having your point of view and your reasons to believe in your product showing up early in the content within the first couple of seconds, making sure that like, brand recall can populate. But then in terms of like the formats, a lot can work.
Awesome. And so in what ways can collaborations with creators on Pinterest support an SEO strategy, considering the discoverability of Pinterest content on search engines?
Yeah, definitely. So love that question. I think this one is really where we can differentiate a lot from other platforms. I would say like text specifically on Pinterest is really your friend. And that doesn't mean like including a full novel and, a bajillion words in every partnership or post that you put up, but leveraging text in a really strategic and meaningful way. And what I mean by that is applying, let's say you're doing a partnership with a creator and you're using our idea ads with paid partnership format, you actually have the ability directly in the unit to include things like what we call topic tags. So topic tags don't necessarily show up like front and center in the content. They're more in the background. They're things you can search for different topics. So let's say you're doing like a coffee program with a creator, you could topic tag in like coffee recipe, latte art, different things that people might be searching to then help your content populate at the right time for those people. So that's one way to leverage text and to kind of feed back into search, but then also applying text overlay on your content actually in the Pinterest editor. So once you go into the Pinterest editor, you'll see that there's a lot of different editing tools actually available in the pin builder. And so you can, of course, build your content outside of the editor and then, upload it. But I always recommend to creators specifically to, if they're going to build outside, save the text overlay for actually doing it in the platform. And this is because
that's such a good tip.
Yeah, this is because when the text is built in platform, it allows for that search indexing. So if I'm writing like maybe about my latte art partnership, I might say something like this is a great coffee recipe to be paired with a coffee cake. If someone searches like coffee cake recipes, they might get your content as well. So just thinking about how you can leverage text in that way, and then also being strategic about the text you do use. So using our Pinterest trends tool is great for this. So dropping in a couple of trending keywords is always great. And then just considering like what you would want your consumer to search for, include that in your text. So obviously allowing the creator to be, authentic and use their voice. But if there's any like mandatory words or sort of recall sentences that you might want for your campaign, including and adding it in text overlay. And what I think is really nice about text is it's not the one thing, but a big thing that allows your content to continue to resurface over time, like we've been talking about a lot. But even if you have a specific moment that you're focusing on, like holiday coffee recipes, your content could show up all holiday because of that holiday portion, but then it could also show up again because of just coffee later in the year. So I think just being as strategic as you can about leveraging some of those search terms and keywords is always a good way to support an SEO strategy.
I love that. And we have tons of advertisers that are joined into this conversation. So I think that's going to be very helpful because I know here at FYI, a lot of brands, when they do come to us and they speak to wanting to kind of run a campaign on Pinterest, it's heavily due to that SEO, being able to tap into that. So right now I can imagine them all like scrambling to write so many notes to ensure that they're doing that in the best way possible. Sehar, I have a question regarding brands and successfully using paid media. I think that we've kind of been teasing that a little bit, but I'm very excited to kind of get into the nitty-gritty of it now. Can you explain how most brands are successfully utilizing paid media on Pinterest, including Pinterest's unique ad features and benefits?
Yeah. So I actually think we've probably covered a lot of it so far already in terms of all the features and like aligned to the different services at Pinterest. But maybe to put into context, and also there'll be so much that I don't discuss today because as Tracey said earlier on, we have a ton of different ad formats. So we could probably talk about it for a whole hour in itself. But at Pinterest, we have a journey, which is what our consumers go through, which is discover, decision, and do. So maybe I'll like map some of what we've just been discussing to this journey. And the journey will be very familiar to everyone. It's a shopping journey, which we've all been on. But essentially, when it comes to discovery, I know I sound like a broken record now, but I really want to stress it's all about aligning to these core moments that we know people are looking for inspiration for. And then underlying those moments is like the trends, like what is trending. Make your content hyper relevant so that when people are looking for that inspiration, it's going to be a success. And tons of successful brands are doing that on our platform. Kind of our moments and trends element that brands align to, we see great success in. And then a really important thing I would say on that is not only kind of like simply aligning your campaign to it, but it's also ensuring that it's integrated into your creatives, right? You need to ensure that the creatives are authentically answering kind of a search or what the pinner is looking for in that instance. The next one would be decision. So decision obviously is once someone's found the inspiration, what are they going to choose and how can you help them with that? We've already chatted through how the algorithm serves hyper relevant content. And Tracey did a great kind of like introduction to idea ads, but idea ads are really taking someone from an idea to I did. So they're all about education. They're all about showing someone how you could bring something into life. And they're a great spot for brands. So think about something like holiday wreath making, for example. A creator could do a holiday wreath making tutorial with a host of different products from a craft brand. So that is a very like end-to-end solution of someone looking for inspiration and then being shown all the steps, and then the brand through their products really being the fuel on deciding, hey, this is what I'm going to do and this is how I could bring it to life. And then I guess that ties in very nicely is in the final segment, which is do. So once someone has a decision, we have features, just naming a few, which is like product tagging. So across all our different formats, brands can leverage product tagging to really directly link out to the product or even buy the product in the app. And then also we have things such as direct links as well. So really when it's down the funnel and we're driving people for that purchase intent. The other thing that I guess I'll call out as well is we've been talking about the paid partnership tool. So as we mentioned, a creator can kind of like post their content, tag a brand can then promote that content with paid media. That's available on idea ads, which 100% are kind of like our hero format with creators, but it's also available with static as well. So combining both of them, combining idea ads with static can really have this more like fuller funnel opportunity for brands where you're having educational content paired with more lower funnel call to action content. And lots of brands utilize like the different formats and partnering with creators in that way.
Thank you. And Tracey, so from both an organic and paid perspective, what metrics and KPIs should brands focus on to measure the success of collaborations with creators on Pinterest?
Yeah, it's a great question. So this one is going to highly depend on your campaign goals. So you can really do anything you want. Awareness campaigns could focus on more like views or impressions. Lower funnel campaigns might want to focus on customer acquisition or actions you could take, such as clicks or purchases. But in terms of organic, what we look at when we're looking at content, and this isn't the only truth, but this is one way of looking at content. Is we like to look at a combination of different engagement metrics, one important one being repins or saves, which I mentioned earlier. And the reason why we find that one to be pretty important for us is because we're really looking to see like what people's intent is. And so when I talk to creators, oftentimes I'm asking them like, let's take a look at your audience makeup. Let's take a look at your data breakdown. And when we look at what's being saved, it's a good indicator of what their audience might want more of. So what they might want to come back for later and build upon. And a lot of times saved content is content that's really educational, something that you might want to watch once or like twice or three times so you can really get an idea of it. So I like to call out that one as a nice one from an organic perspective, but really from the paid side, it will really fully depend on what your objectives and goals are for each campaign.
Got it. And keeping in line with paid, how do brands add paid amplification to their brand sponsored creator content? Tracey, could you walk us through the best ways for brands to do this?
Yeah, definitely. So when thinking about paid for working with creator content and branded content, really, there's two sort of main ways to do this today. So one way is you could work with a creator and you could have them build content on your behalf, and then you could get usage and licensing of that content and publish it to your page as an ad. So that's more just like working with a creator as a third-party vendor and having them be a content producer for you and putting your name on it with their permission, of course. But the other format that we've been coming back to a ton is idea ads with paid partnership. So in this format, it's where you would come together with a creator and you would discuss your program, get your creative brief together, make a plan for when you'd want to go live. And then from there, the creator would actually build the content, upload it to their Pinterest. So to their Pinterest page, it would be posted and hosted by them, but promoted by the brand. So the way that a creator actually does that is just as they would make any other pin, they would go into their mobile device, they would tap into the plus button, upload their content, add that important text overlay, and then also leverage the rest of the pin builder to include things like royalty-free music and other enhancements to the content to make it a little bit more enticing to view. And then from there, they'll actually toggle on this paid partnership tool. So it really is, it's in the advanced settings, it's towards the end of the creation flow, and you can toggle that on. Once you toggle it on, you're able to actually type in a brand's name. So we could type in like a coffee brand, and then that brand would populate with their Pinterest page. They would then, that brand would receive a notification saying Tracey Johnson, the creator, has tagged you in their idea pin. Do you want to approve this? You then, the brand would approve that. And then from there, you can either leave it as organic, and you can do that just as an FTC disclosure. Great for if you're ever doing like a gifted campaign, or just want to kind of like test and learn with uploading existing creator content to the platform. Maybe you're running a program on another platform and you're like, let's test this on Pinterest. But I always recommend putting paid behind it so you can really reach your target audience, which you would be able to do that in Ads Manager, just like you can on any other paid campaign. So you would accept the tag, you would say like, yes, we are partnering with Tracey, this amazing coffee creator. And then you would say, here's who we want to target with this to make it into an ad. And in all of that process, you're able to add really great things like descriptions, links, those topic tags we talked about, product tagging, to really like enhance the content and make it as actionable for you as a brand as possible. And then from there, you just kind of get to sit back and watch your content get all the engagement and viewership that you're hoping for.
Love to see it.
Yeah,
Oh
it's
my
great.
gosh. That was such an extensive and necessary walkthrough. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, and I know there's some
yeah.
questions in the chat specifically about like how this works. So I'll drop in a couple of links there as well for people to leverage. And again, we will follow up with some more materials for y'all to take home and try these programs on your own.
Absolutely. I appreciate that so much. And I know they are, of course, going to as well. So we have walked through so many great tips and tricks on how to utilize the Pinterest platform. Sehar and Tracey, thank you so much for sharing your insights and knowledge with us. It was so extensive and so, I keep saying the same thing, but just very needed. And I know that not only am I going to be able to utilize this knowledge, but of course, everyone who will be listening to, who is listening to this now and who will be listening to it later. So I'm going to go ahead and check the Q&A chat because like you had mentioned, Tracey, there's a few great questions that are coming in. So I want to make sure that we have time to address them. I'm going to start, here with a question from Chelsea. Can you please share more about idea pins? What makes an ideal idea pin?
Yeah, I can start off, but Tracey, I'm sure we're both going to have things to add on to here. So definitely idea pins need to be educational. We would recommend starting off with a video. Obviously, if it's kind of like a branded idea pin, ensure that your product's up there front and center. Then in the idea pin kind of like best practices, have kind of like choppable chapters so that when you sync the video together at the end, it's kind of a story that's being told throughout. The narrative is also really important as well. This sounds really simple, but have a start, middle, and end on the story that's being told. And then the really important one, which Tracey mentioned earlier, but I'll just reiterate, is text. Always ensure that you're producing idea ads so that if the voice was off, consumers could still kind of like understand the idea of the ad in that sense. But Tracey, anything else to what makes an amazing idea ad? Anything else to add?
I think a lot of it has to do too with something that isn't super quantitative. It's kind of like watching creator content and seeing what you want to get out of it. So if you're really looking for a personality, someone that like your brand can grab onto and really have an ambassadorship with, I think look for that in the content, versus if you're looking for someone who's consistently posting a specific type of format, like maybe this person is always doing unboxing and like clothing hauls. And you really want that for your brand, you want to integrate it into that existing and successful format. I think all the things that you said, Sehar, I would focus on primarily, but then as like a secondary layer is just looking at who you're working with and what you want to get out of it as a brand. so that you can kind of make the most of your partnership.
Yeah.
Amazing. And so we have another question from Lindsay here from the Home Depot, acting as Anne Marie. That is hilarious. But of course, we share accounts sometimes. She said, I am interested in how you're working with affiliates on Pinterest. Are you bringing wedding registries or gift card? Whoops. Okay. Or gift guides to the platform to help support users during those big life moments?
Yeah, so you can actually leverage affiliate links directly in the idea pin format. There's actually a section in our sticker function today where you can drop in your affiliate link, but also many, if not all of our formats allow for link generation. So dropping in an existing link to maybe a gift guide, as you mentioned. I think having links is a really great way to drive people to a specific destination, and we see a lot that our audience wants it because they want to kind of like take action. They come to Pinterest with something really specific in mind and they want to kind of like get that done. So yes, leverage affiliate links and links in any way that you would like, because it's for the taking.
Yeah, I would just add on, and definitely for like a brand Lindsay, for like Home Depot, gift guides or kind of registries are like really popular kind of formats that people do run, especially around like the holiday season. So leveraging those links to kind of like build your own gift guides. Sometimes people utilize, for example, the board format to pull together kind of like a gift guide. So pulling together a board with lots of different products on there. Obviously you could use like product tagging as well to kind of a brand making their own gift guide or registry in that fashion.
Amazing. And so we have another really fun question here. What is the best growth strategy for a creator who's not working with any brand?
Yeah, I think consistently publishing content, both from a curation and creation perspective. This also kind of ties into the question at the top around original content creation versus repinning on your profile. I think just bringing as much content over to your profile as you can is always really helpful to help drive followers, but then also leveraging some of the tools that we talked about. So I dropped in the trend tool in one of the chat answers. That's a really great one to help drive viewership around your content, really leaning into like what people are already looking for. It kind of gives you like a step in the right direction for programming your content and publishing content that's in line with some of that stuff. But then I think also like sharing your profile on other platforms. So when I've managed creators in the past here at Pinterest, I've seen really good growth rates for creators who have big followings other places, and then they might leverage that following to get more on Pinterest. So sharing a board or sharing a specific idea pin that you created that you think would be really meaningful for your audience. And then a lot of times we see people come over. Same with like blogs and .coms. I'm sorry, there's someone doing the leaves outside and it's very loud for me. So I'll say those. And Sehar, if you want to add anything, please do.
No worries. No, I honestly think that you covered all of them off. So that was all the good stuff. And also, Tracey, don't worry, we can't hear.
I know you
can't
hear it, but I can't even like hear myself talk.
Oh my gosh, it's just super distracting.
Yeah, it's very distracting.
So I want to be considerate of the time because I know we are getting to the wrap point. So I'm going to pull one more question here. And so there's another question that asks, what is more important, original content creation or repinning to your profile?
Yeah. I think the simple answer to this would be definitely original content creation. Obviously, like curating content to your profile is like really great as well. But Tracey, I know like yourself and the team have focused in on both areas. So I don't know if you have further information to back it up.
Yeah, definitely. So we see great results for both kinds of content. I think specifically for brands, I would recommend like if you have a content catalog, uploading it over to your Pinterest is always great. Just the more content that you can get in the ecosystem for viewers to find you, the better. Original content when it comes to things like new products or how to use your products, working with creators, that's always a great method. But I think a good mix of curation and creation, I always mess that up, but curation and creation is really smart in terms of a content strategy and kind of mixing that up for your audience. So some things that might look a little bit more authentic, that might be shot like on iPhone or mobile device. And then some things that might be more of a commercial shoot that could really drive like inspiration. I see this a lot with interior brands where they'll have like how to style this coffee table, but then they'll have a bunch of just like in situation living rooms and other content to kind of like, oh, I'd love to even think about styling a coffee table, and then going to this original content that's like, here's actually how you might do it. But you might not even know you want to style a coffee table until you see some of those more like zoomed out images from that. So I think that's really where like the balance is super important, to have some stuff that's a little bit more original and authentic, and then some stuff that's just more like inspirational, beautiful, showcasing your product or your service.
Amazing. And so I know we have 4 more minutes left. However, there are some great questions that just popped up into the chat. So I want to see if we can answer them really quickly before we do end this call. But Jontel had a question asking, what potential reach can brands see on successful campaigns on Pinterest? And then the last question that we would address is from Camille, is it beneficial to create pins for old posts, or are new URLs prioritized?
Yeah, Jontel's one, I guess I can answer very quickly. So the potential reach will really depend campaign by campaign. And, you know, obviously if we're considering the likes of a paid campaign, it will really depend on modeling that to how much reach you would get in that instance. So apologies, it's probably not like a definitive answer in that instance, but it would really depend on the campaign, your objective, the creatives, and kind of like the success you would see on the back of that. And then, sorry, Raro, what was the second question?
Yeah. Second one is it beneficial to create pins for old posts, or are new URLs prioritized?
I wonder if that question is about like old content in other destinations. I think like publishing content from other destinations that might be old, it's still new to Pinterest. So if you're pulling your content over from, let's say, like your Instagram or from your website, RSS feed, a blog, it will populate as new content to Pinterest. And content isn't necessarily prioritized by when it's published. It's more prioritized based on what people are looking for. So again, with that idea that all the content on Pinterest is evergreen, we really don't consider as much things like how old something is, more about its relevancy factors to what someone's looking for. So I would say there is no downside to publishing old content to Pinterest, as long as it's still relevant for your brand and for your audience, and it's still showcasing things that you could back up, I suppose.
Amazing. So that is all the time we have for this month's live content series. A big thank you to everyone who joined us today. You can find Sehar on LinkedIn under Sehar Mahmood and Tracey on LinkedIn under Tracey Johnson. We will also link their LinkedIns on our webinar follow-up email to attendees. We invite you to continue the conversation on our Facebook and LinkedIn groups under the FYI by Find Your Influence. Join us Wednesday, December 6th at 12 p.m. Eastern Time for a conversation around ROI in influencer marketing. We are joined by Amanda Solomon and Ryan Charchain with the Arena Group. We will link the sign up in our follow-up email and on our Facebook and LinkedIn group, so make sure you join those groups. Thank you, everyone, again so much for joining, and have an amazing afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Bye.
Bye.